Every dinner knife in your kitchen drawer ends in a rounded tip. You've used thousands of them at thousands of meals and never once needed a point. That's not a manufacturing shortcut. Someone designed it that way, on purpose. So why does a knife, a tool built to cut, refuse to come to a point? This isn't a quirk of one brand or one factory. It's the shape of almost every table knife made in the last 350 years. The decision that rounded them didn't start in a kitchen. It started in a French court, with one cardinal who'd had enough of watching men pick their teeth with the tip of a blade. Here's the decree that dulled every knife in the Western world and why it never got sharp again. Before this decree, a knife on the table wasn't just for cutting your food. For centuries, most people carried their own knife wherever they went, pointed tip included. It cut your bread, speared your meat, and if the evening turned ugly, it could just as easily become a weapon. That same object sitting harmlessly in your kitchen drawer used to be something you'd think twice about handing to a stranger. Table settings back then didn't include a knife for you at all. You were expected to bring your own. And inside the tightly formal court of Louis XIV, that old habit was becoming a real problem. So what happens when 100 armed guests sit down to dinner together night after night? First attempts to fix this weren't about the knife at all. European courts had spent nearly a century producing manuals that told nobles exactly how to behave at a table. It's the equivalent of a modern warning label that says, "Be careful with scissors." Advice, not a redesign. The guides told diners not to pick their teeth with the knife tip, not to gesture with it, not to stab at shared dishes. None of it worked, because a rule is only as strong as the willingness of everyone in the room to follow it. Drunken quarrels at the dinner table were common enough that some noble households kept a physician within call. So the court tried a second fix, importing a whole new utensil instead. A century earlier, Catherine de' Medici had brought the fork into French royal dining straight from Italy. It let a diner spear their food without ever touching it or reaching for the point of a knife. So why didn't the fork alone solve the problem? Forks were rare, expensive, and mostly reserved for the wealthiest tables in the country. Most French diners, nobles included, still ate mostly with a knife, their fingers, and whatever manners they'd managed to learn. It's the same as introducing a safety feature only the richest households could actually afford. Etiquette hadn't worked, the fork hadn't reached far enough, the knife itself was still the problem. But here's the thing. The fix that finally worked had nothing to do with teaching anyone better manners at all. The man who finally ended the debate wasn't a cutler, a physician, or an etiquette writer. It was Cardinal Richelieu, chief minister to Louis XIII, one of the most powerful men in France. In 1669, he issued a decree banning pointed dinner knives outright, in his own household first. Every knife on his table was ground down to a rounded tip, and every guest was expected to use one. It wasn't a suggestion, it was an order. In the house of a man nobody in France dared to disobey. And that's the piece the manuals and the forks had both missed. Enforcement. A rule from a powerless source stays a suggestion. A rule from Richelieu became the way things were done. And here's what that tells us about everything else around you. A design doesn't need to be the best solution to survive. It just needs someone powerful enough to enforce it. Social etiquette, enforced by the right authority, can permanently reshape an everyday object. No re-engineering required. If you want to see more of these, the hidden logic behind the things you use every single day, subscribe. What's one object in your kitchen you've never questioned? Drop it in the comments. It might be the next one. Richelieu's household wasn't a private experiment for long. Everyone who dined at his table saw the rounded knives and understood exactly what they meant. It's like showing up to a dinner party and noticing every other guest already knows a rule nobody told you. Owning a pointed knife started to look outdated, even a little uncouth among people who wanted to seem refined. Parisian cutlers noticed the shift fast and started grinding their blades to match the new fashion. It cost them nothing extra to make. A rounded tip took the same steel, the same forge, the same hour of work. That's the same reason a phone manufacturer will change a default setting for millions of users overnight if it costs them nothing to flip. Within a generation, the rounded knife wasn't a cardinal's rule anymore. It was simply what a knife looked like. French fashion carried enormous weight across European courts, and this fashion traveled with everything else. If Versailles ate this way, why wouldn't every court that admired France copy it too? German, English, and Italian cutlers began rounding their own blades to match the French standard within decades. By the early 1700s, a pointed dinner knife on a respectable table had all but disappeared across Western Europe. So the design worked, it spread. But here's where it gets strange. The threat that started it all had already faded. By the early 1700s, Parisian workshops had ground down every template they owned to match the new curve. The pointed blade wasn't banned in the shops, it simply stopped being manufactured because nobody was ordering it. That's the same freeze point that happens when a factory retools its entire line for one product. The old version doesn't get banned, it just disappears from the catalog. By the time Louis XIV died in 1715, an entire generation across France had never once eaten with anything but a rounded blade. The same shape had already crossed into German courts, English dining rooms, and Italian households copying French fashion without question. Reversing course now would have meant retooling every forge on the continent and reteaching table manners nobody remembered needing. By then, the duels had mostly stopped. The toothpicking had faded from polite memory. The reason for the decree was gone, but the knife stayed exactly the way Richelieu had left it. The decree itself disappeared into old court records. The knife it created never went back to a point. The same pattern shows up wherever a powerful person cares enough to enforce a preference. In 1840, Queen Victoria wore a plain white gown to her own wedding, simply because she liked it. Within a decade, brides across Europe were copying her, and white became the only acceptable color. No queen ever passed a law about it. She never needed to. Everyone who mattered was already copying what she wore. That's the mechanism. One person with authority makes a choice, and the rest of us live inside it. Every table knife in your kitchen drawer still carries Cardinal Richelieu's decree ground into its blade. So the next time you pick one up, you're holding a 350-year-old order nobody ever canceled.